Welcome everybody to Business Talkback. It's been a little while since we've met, and we have some great guests today, and we will have a check-in from some of our legislators and Economic Development Committee in a little bit. But today we have a special program that we're bringing you about restaurants. As many of you know, restaurants have been one of the small businesses we've been the most concerned about, and have spent a lot of time focusing on them, but they are far from out of the woods. In fact, according to a recent New York State Restaurant Association survey, about 90% of restaurant owners don't expect to recover until next spring, and more than 60% are expected to close by 2021. So we have asked Melissa Fleischut, did I say it right? Close.
You did great.
From the New York State Restaurant Association to be our guest. And Melissa, I'm sorry, what is your title with the New York State?
I'm president and CEO of the New York State Restaurant Association.
Excellent. And then we also have Rich Parente on, who is our Putnam County local celebrity chef who does an amazing job over at Clock Tower Grill. So we're going to hear from him shortly. So Melissa, tell us a little bit about your organization.
Sure. So we are a statewide trade association dedicated to the restaurant industry, and very broadly with the use of the word restaurants. So we have small mom and pop restaurants, we have quick service, casual, fine dining, pizza places, catering establishments, some hotel food service, food carts. Pretty broad use of the word restaurant there. But we are statewide, and we have members, as we like to say, from Montauk to Messina and Brooklyn to Buffalo. Big state, lots of different issues, lots of different restaurants, and we try to help everybody.
Yeah, that's a tall order nowadays, because there's just so many different kinds of restaurants or related to that industry. So I would imagine the range of issues are wide.
Yeah, and that survey result that you mentioned, just to clarify a little bit there, what we actually found was that almost 64% of our survey respondents, we had over 1,000 responses, said that without additional federal assistance,
Right.
They were likely not to make it to 2021. So very concerning indeed.
So tell us a little bit about some potential financial relief that's in the pipeline.
Yeah, so, ever since the beginning, we worked with our national partner. We have a national partner, the National Restaurant Association, and here in New York, we have a unified membership agreement with them. So if you join the New York State Restaurant Association, you automatically become a member of the National Restaurant Association, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So the way that works is they handle all of the federal legislation dealing with Congress, the executive branch, anything that in that line. So they helped get the initial PPP round taken care of, and the EIDL program off the ground, then the fixes and changes that we needed to PPP because it wasn't really working the way they thought it was going to work. Nothing's really gone the way a lot of us thought it was at the beginning of this pandemic. And now, they've been lobbying for an entire recovery package. So that includes things like a dedicated restaurant relief fund. It's something they've been asking for since April. It's definitely gaining more interest and more traction as people start to really understand the depth of the impact it's had on the industry. But additional PPP money would be great. EIDL money would be great. They looked at additional loan and grant programs. Grants are certainly better than loans. Loans tend to scare restaurant owners a lot just because we don't know going forward, if they're going to be in a position to pay them back. So the more grant money that's available and less loan money, the better.
Absolutely. Is there anything that we can be doing to help make sure this legislation is being looked at and is taken seriously and become an actual item to be voted on soon.
Sure. So the National Restaurant Association has launched a new grassroots campaign, and it's to help everyone contact their member of Congress and their senators about, the dire need of the restaurant industry. So I'll be happy to share that with you, and you can share across your social media platforms if that works for you guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we can talk to other business organizations that we work with often and see what efforts they're making. And we oftentimes will group up to make our voices a little bit more impactful. So we will certainly look into that.
Take all the help we can get.
Yeah, I bet. I know. It's scary stuff. And it's the PPP was difficult for more traditional businesses where you understand who you're hiring and who you're not bringing back, or so on and so forth. It's a little bit clearer in an office. I know one of the issues is workforce even right now for local restaurants. People being afraid to come back to work or other reasons. So at this point, Rich, I want to bring you on. So just tell us a little bit about Clock Tower and about yourself, and then let's see what questions we have from Melissa.
How's everybody doing? My name is Rich Parente. I'm Clock Tower Grill with my wife, Cassie Parente. And, just like everybody else, we're struggling through this, one day at a time. Not sure what's going to happen. We're just getting cold outside. It's only so long people are going to be willing to sit outside before it gets too cold. And, trying to figure out our next steps, what we're going to do. We've relied heavily on social media during this time. And,
well, you've done an amazing job with what you have done and how you've shifted in this pandemic. I am a member of your social media and a huge fan, but you do a really good job of describing the food and what kind of an impact it's going to make on you if you're going to eat this po' boy or whatever it is that you're doing, and you're extremely creative. But I can sense that you are probably having to do 3 to 4 times the amount of work and for a lot less income. So
everything, our hours are cut back. The price of product has gone up significantly. It's still important to us to support local farms, because that's part of our culinary community as well. So, this has forced us to buy more, try to find more local farmers to support, just because there are so many farmers that are struggling right now, just like the rest of us. I don't know. It's just a difficult time.
So is there any part of your business that you're sensing at this point will not make a full comeback? And how are you adjusting?
No, every day it's changing. I don't know. People don't want to eat inside. They'll rather go try to find somewhere else to eat if they can't get a reservation outside. We're fortunate that we have a larger patio. I feel for the people who don't have patios. I don't know. I don't know how. It's tough. It's very disheartening for me hearing so much about this industry to see. And there's not. Unfortunately, the local politics is local politics. So they're not making it any easier for us to do business. Getting permits for outdoor dining and stuff like that when we're in survival mode, and they wait till the last minute to say, hey, don't forget your permit. Right now we just need to open business for the first time after being shut down and finding a staff again and finding people to actually do the job. So, we are spread thin. We are working harder than we ever have before. It is hard to unfortunately find people willing to work. Just and being able to afford extra bodies. I know we're a man down in the kitchen. Would I like an extra person? Yeah, I would love an extra person, but can we afford it? Absolutely not.
Right.
People still, expectations are still the same as they were before COVID. They want to go out for dinner. They want a perfect experience. We're cooking masks. Our servers are serving masks. So it's definitely different.
So what are your plans for late fall and the winter when it does get too cold?
Weeks ago, we're like, it's gonna get cold, so we went to Home Depot and bought as many heaters as we could afford. Before they were all sold out, which they're starting to be hard to find right now. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put, if we have to put fire barrels. I have no idea to keep people warm. Like people were complaining the other night it was cold. Like I can't help it. You chose to sit outside. If you go inside, I feel like inside's a controlled environment. I know, I guess I speak for myself and everybody else that we are doing as much as we can to keep our restaurants as clean as possible to make people feel safe. Logs in the bathrooms, going in after each customer to clean them down, wiping down each piece of furniture. I'm pretty sure we've destroyed every piece of furniture in our restaurant, continuously wiping off the finishes to make sure everybody feels safe.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot for anybody. Melissa, is this sort of the same story that you're hearing in most of the restaurants throughout the state?
It is pretty typical of what we're hearing. Most restaurants have had to put on, in a lot of cases, additional staff, which is really interesting considering they don't have the same customer count, they don't have the same number of tables. But in order to maintain the cleanliness and in some cases to run the food further, to go outside and deal with the outside tables, to police the situation and make sure that everybody is wearing their mask when they're not seated and standing 6 feet apart in line if they're waiting for a table or whatever it is. It's been a really challenging time. It's been very difficult, and that's pretty typical. I would say we're starting to see people come inside a little bit more, which is encouraging. I think it started, at least from what I was hearing on some of our regional calls, about a week or two before Labor Day. We started to see an uptick in indoor dining with people coming back inside, which is, I think the really only solution once we hit winter here. I like the idea of outdoor dining and I like heaters, but I can't see it coming, to a place where everybody's going to be comfortable in January or February. It's not, we all know where we live. We know what the winters are like here. So, getting people back inside, feeling comfortable, staying safe, and hopefully increasing our number would be key, I would think.
Right. Yeah. What a challenge. So some things I think maybe have impacted in a positive way. I think we talked about before we got on about alcohol to go. I know I went down to Yonkers a few weeks ago and it was a lot of fun being able to take my drink and walk down the avenue right there by the waterfront. How has that impacted your business, Rich? And what are you hearing about that?
Right now, we're not doing a lot to go. During the whole, when there was no indoor dining, sure, we did a ton of liquor to go. But we did promotions.
Yeah.
What we're selling. But, moving forward, it would be great to know if this is going to be something that does stick, so we can maybe invest a little bit into a to-go alcohol program, and just to know what we can and can't do moving forward. Because sure, I would like to make an attractive packaging to be able to, advertise, but do I want to invest in that in something that is only guaranteed for 30 days at a time? Unfortunately, like Melissa said, legislation is not in meeting right now, and that's probably at the bottom of their list of things to worry about.
So right now, the alcohol to go rides with the executive order from the governor. Is that correct?
That's correct. It was allowed through an executive order by the governor, and the governor has the ability to renew it every 30 days. He just renewed it on, I think it was September 4th, for 30 days. So we have until the beginning of October, but that's as far as he can go. He can't go beyond the 30 days right now. It would take an act of the state legislature. And as Rich pointed out, they aren't meeting right now. So in order to get that legislation passed, they would have to come back into session and deal with that legislation and pass it through both chambers to make it a more permanent solution, or even to extend it beyond the 30 days. And ironically, the situation you described is one of the things that we get told is a problem with alcohol to go, is that if you take the container away from a restaurant or a bar and you start walking down the street with it, that's an open container violation. So I'm sure you were doing it right and it wasn't at all a problem. But, you know, you just have to be careful that that's not what happens.
Yeah.
Well, it was fun, and I've been known to break the rules once or twice. And I may have drank the Mai Tai from Rich's place right in the parking lot, and it was delicious. But, you know, I understand that, you know, it's very difficult to invest money in marketing or packaging or coming up with the business model if you don't know what it looks like past 30 days. Is that legislation extension, is that part of the two proposals that are in the Senate and Congress? Is that part of that?
No, so this would be state legislation. So this would be in the New York State Assembly and the New York State Senate. Totally different from the relief package at the federal level.
Sue Serino and Kevin Byrne are who we should be getting on about that, and Senator Harkin. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. So anything else that you guys want to bring up or discuss as far as restaurants go, or what we can do to help?
I guess just keep on sending letters to our local senators. I mean, that's the most important thing, right? Anybody else we should send it to, Melissa?
I mean, it like I said, the relief package is really at the federal level. You know, we've had a couple Zoom calls like this that we did with Senator Schumer. He's one of the lead negotiators at the federal level as Senate Minority Leader. So he's certainly someone who understands the impact of the restaurant on the industry and has been really supportive, but that just doesn't seem to be able to get everybody at the table and get everybody across the finish line on a new COVID package. So, you know, I think we've had good response from a lot of our congressional leaders here in New York, but we're just going to need a lot of pressure to get everybody else to understand that this has to happen. And going home and, you know, waiting for the election is not really an option for this industry. I'm very fearful of what it's going to look like in October, November, and December as restaurants continue to, you know, try to stay open when there's no federal funding. Based on what we're hearing, it is not going to be pretty.
Okay. Well, we have been sharing the link that you talked about on our social media as well as on our blog, but we will continue to share that and try to get as much input there as possible. We do have on the call, we have Bill Nolk from the, who's also on the Putnam County Business Council call, but also runs our Industrial Development Agency or is on the board. And we also have legislator Amy Sage. Do you guys want to unmute and do you want to add anything to the conversation before you give us an update on your stuff?
I'd just like to, I guess, ask, are there, you know, obviously the restrictions and the question is customer confidence, or are people going to come back into the restaurants, you know, as we build back into hopefully more comfort in being involved in this whole COVID situation? Are there innovations or layout systems that, you know, people should be more aware of, maybe it would help make people more comfortable in your seating arrangements? I mean, is having, you know, plexiglass partitions in the middle of a table. I mean, that does, obviously that's uncomfortable, but you know, I think you understand what I'm trying to say is, are we missing something in the way they've kind of said, this is what you have to do versus what really might work better?
I personally don't think that there's much more we can do. I mean, right now my dining room looks very uncomfortable. There's nothing on the tables. All the extra tables have been removed, and you know, we don't put out place things, we don't put out napkins. Everything's brought when you sit down. Putting up plexiglass, I think that creates. You want to make it inviting, and the more stuff you add, it's going to make it less inviting. I mean, we're already social distance tables 6 feet apart. Right. Add a piece of plexiglass, does that really do anything? I don't think so. I think important. You just need to. I mean, education is the most important thing. Letting people know that restaurants are doing all they can do. Let them know that, unfortunately, the customers are the police, and why would we want to do anything to jeopardize a bad fucking excuse my language, bad Yelp review, or, somebody posting something on Facebook. I mean, I look at like the local town Facebook forums, and it's disgusting what people post.
Agreed.
They're not educated, and that's the most important thing, is educating our customers. That's what we need help with, educating them about, we're doing everything we can, educating them that, yes, everybody does have a false sense of how good restaurants are doing because they look busy, but no, we're not, because we're at 25% capacity. We're at limited hours and stuff like that. And, there's a lot of restaurants that don't have a lot of outdoor dining, and they have barely any seats inside. I have a friend who has a restaurant in Poughkeepsie who has 10 tables. The way, once they're social distancing, he has 3 tables and 2 tables outside. There's nothing he can do, except for, flip those tables and do as much takeout as possible. So is there anything else we can do? I don't really think so. Anything more, Bill, that you think we might need is only like talking about like the plexiglass and stuff is just going to make people feel uncomfortable. The more stuff you like plexiglass and stuff is going to make people feel, because you want people to forget. For that hour and a half they're at the restaurant, you want them to forget.
That's a good point.
Yeah. It's really easy to go outside, but it is tough to do inside. But I have an idea that Lisa, we should brainstorm with Rich. I feel like we could do some education and some marketing and some promotion for what local businesses are doing and how they are prepared and what they can do inside in the upcoming months, or different ideas for takeout or and whatnot, and get that out to the county as much as possible, so that we are promoting you guys. I'd love to do that. So that's a good idea. So,
not just restaurants, all small businesses in our area.
Agreed. Yeah. We're kind of trying to take things by segments to make sure, we're doing what we can for each industry. Amy, you have anything you want to add to this conversation?
I'd just like to add that the Putnam County Health Department is a great resource for restaurants. They want to help make sure that your businesses continue and can thrive throughout this pandemic. If you call the Department of Health, feel free to reach out to them at 845-808-1390. We have had that discussion about plexiglass. It's very expensive. And I think Rich is absolutely correct, is people want to forget it for, the hour they're out having an experience at your restaurant. I'd also like to make a point that our numbers are pretty good in the state of New York. They're very low. We'd like to keep it that way. Putnam County especially, we have less than 1% positivity rate, so that's a good thing. I think everybody in Putnam County is doing a fantastic job, and I think that really is a compliment also to our restaurants. And I think people are going out and feeling safer, and the businesses are making people feel much safer. And just keep it up. Just keep it up.
Amy, do you think, in addition to us, can you reach out to Kevin Byrne and Sue Serino as a legislator in the county and let them know that that legislation of pushing that the liquor to go beyond 30 days?
Absolutely.
I think for the upcoming months, if Rich could at least know, well, I also have this that I can do, because I understand that. And I said that before we got on. That's kind of like what happened with the gyms. Gyms invested all kinds of money into getting their gyms ready, and then they sat for like 90 days without any information. And that's not something, I don't think anybody has any extra income right now to spend on things that may not be able to, things that they shouldn't be marketing, because they're not going to be able to do that in 60 days from now. So at least if we can get as much clarity to the restaurants on what they can and can't do, I think that's the very least we can do while we're waiting for Senate to meet and discuss the bailout money, which is obviously also something that's important. Because Rich, I'm sure there's also some opportunity out there, and I hate to say that, but what I'm seeing in some businesses is businesses are seeing, like, if I have a second location or a third location, that might be a way for me to survive. But it's very difficult to do without knowing if there's any grant money out there or any.
It's very difficult to, like, not unknowing what's going to happen in the fall. Takeout's great, but at the end of the day, people don't get 2-3 drinks for takeout. They don't get appetizers. They don't get dessert.
No.
So that drives your check average down. So, I mean, why wouldn't we do the best we can keeping the restaurants clean? Because we want to get past this, and we want to, open up the doors to be able to let more people, full restaurants back. We want to get things back the way it was. And by cutting corners and not doing it the right way, we're only hurting ourselves and other people. So
Agreed.
we have to, and that's what we have to let the public know.
Yep. Consumer confidence is key. People want to feel safe, but they want to come out and support. That I've seen. And I think I've seen more of that in Putnam County than in a lot of places, the rallying behind the restaurants. But a lot of that was for takeout. So now what's next? Because obviously a big part of that was being able to dine outdoors. So we will definitely get that message out. I thank you so much, Melissa and Rich, for being on. We're going to work on some sort of message to the public so that we can make it very clear about what restaurants are doing, and retail. We'll probably add that in. And Melissa, we are glad to have a new connect, and we will be continuing to stay in touch. Anything that you need for us to be discussing with elected officials, just pass along, and we will most certainly do that. And I'm just going to move on to Bill, if you'd like to give a report from the IDA, and Amy, if you'd like to give an update on legislative body in Putnam County, please do. Bill, you're on mute.
I sometimes sound better when I'm muted.
Yes, we hold it.
The IDA is basically doing what so many other operations are doing, or we're waiting to find out what the future